with Kirby on 97.9 The Beats. And this is where we like to showcase different Latinos and Latino owned businesses in the DFW Metroplex that are really doing this thing for the culture. And it's February, so we got to tap in with our Afro Latinos or Latinas. And for this particular situation, I am literally so grateful to be able to introduce a woman who's dedicated most of her adult life to being an advocate for social justices, pretty much in any person or place that's underrepresented or underdeveloped. Specifically, you might have seen her putting people sign up to vote at libraries or colleges, speaking in front of the city council about how to advocate for our local neighborhoods, canvassing state capitol, women's rights, legalization laws, advocating on every level up to federal. And for me particularly, I like to see her do her thing at her own foundation. It's a Sarin Foundation that she co-owns. It's a 501c that is dedicated to helping revitalize urban neighborhoods. And so on top of all the advocation, she still finds time to be an actual artist. So she's not only beautiful, she creates beautiful artworks as well. And she does all that while being an amazingly gorgeous Afro-Latina. Everybody, may I introduce Miss Sierra Encarnacion, aka SiSi for Dallas.
Thank you so much. That was an awesome introduction. I need you to come introduce me literally anytime I go anywhere.
Girl, I was like tripping. I was like, oh my God, she has so much stuff that she does. I just was like, I want to get it right. Like I'm just like, you are a powerhouse woman. So thank you for being a powerhouse woman, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for even thinking to highlight me. And I'm actually Tejana and Puerto Rican. So my roots are like deep in Texas and in the Caribbean. And that's like the beautiful thing about being Puerto Rican is that our heritage is Taino, Indigenous, and Spanish and African. So I feel so fortunate to be of the diaspora, but also like deep in Texas with my heritage.
Yes, I literally, you already getting into it because that's exactly what I was like, I got to focus on because you are the walking representation of a bridge of the Black and Brown community, literally from your day to day work to your actual ancestral lineage, like you just said. And that's kind of what I like to do is focus in right here is, where we did come from and our roots and how it does affect what we do in our day to day lives. So you said you're Tejana and Puerto Rican. So how did that, were you born in Texas? Were you born in Puerto Rico? Like, how did that work?
So I was actually born in Kaiserslautern, Germany. So I'm a military brat. My parents, one of my dad is still a drill sergeant in the military in the army, but my mom was in the military too. So they met in Germany and got married and had me. And so I grew up like in North Carolina, in New Jersey, Florida, but I lived in Texas for the most amount of time. So yeah, I grew up and seen like a lot of different lifestyles, and so I think that's what makes me kind of like just be for everybody everywhere.
Yes. And even more so, like being literally like encompassed into a situation where you are always kind of the different person from Germany, although you said South Carolina, Carolina?
North Carolina.
North Carolina,
Yeah.
like all those different areas, like you're different. So how do you feel like your family or yourself were able to kind of maintain, that sturdiness to your roots and like not forgetting like where y'all came from, like being of Puerto Rico background or Tejana background?
Mhm. Well, I think that luckily, like no matter where we went, we always had each other, and like the people you love, your family, like that's where home is, regardless of where y'all are on the map. So just being so fortunate to have like a really tight family and people that are always there for me no matter what has really kept me close to like my heritage and what's important. And I think also like really grounds me and like pushes me forward for like what my future is, because I think where you come from and the things that your ancestors did before you like has a big impact on what you end up doing.
Absolutely. That's what I was gonna say, and because I kind of already told you beforehand, you're like a ghost online. Like I was like, you can look at CC for Dallas and you can see how I'm advocating, but like as far as your background and stuff, you're very under wraps. So if it's okay, like, is your father, is your mother, who gave you what, and where did it come from?
So I would definitely say I got very like politically engaged because of my mom. My mom is a really super duper smart lady. She's really big into politics. And so her just being so involved and so vocal made me really be interested in it. And so like me and my mom have went to like protest Trump together
Oh wow.
and like pro women's rally and all that stuff. So she really kind of got me into that. And I think also too, like my dad being so like deep in the military, it really gave me an opportunity to analyze the institution of the military, at least in the United States, and like
Yeah.
how harmful it actually is. So
Yeah.
yeah, I come from like a long line of people that have served in the military, and
Wow.
when I turned 18, everyone was like, "What's up?" And I was like, "Actually, fuck that. I
Yeah.
don't."
Oh God, like forget all that. I'm not trying to hear it for real. So is your dad from Puerto Rico or is your mom from Puerto Rico?
So my dad is Puerto Rican. He was
Okay.
born and raised in Hoboken, New Jersey.
Okay.
So, but I think 2 generations before that, that's when we came to the United States from Puerto Rico. And thankfully, I have like cousins that have done like our ancestry work because I've never taken the time to do that.
Yeah.
But I guess like after, my family like looked through some of our ancestry and some of that like history, we had been working on plantations in Puerto Rico on sugarcane plantations like 4 or 5 generations, 6 generations back in my family. So
Wow. And now you're here literally like changing tomorrow. Like the freedoms that they gave you is like you're advocating you on a ass, Lord. That's cool. Okay. So I was gonna say, and that's one thing that I was gonna like for me and myself, like obviously like I'm puro tejana, like I'm from here, born and raised. But a lot of myself growing up, I was in a lot of like more, black culture because of sports, because of neighborhood, whatever the circumstance was. But one thing that I've found to be pretty synonymous on both sides of the spectrum is like we're big on community. We're big on like I don't care whose kid you is. If you're around me, come here. Let's get some food. You know what I'm saying? Get some, something on your back. Get this coat, whatever it is. And again, that's kind of where I see a lot of how you navigate your day to day. Like a lot of even, and again, you're a gorgeous woman, but like there's not much on just like you. You're like, look what we're doing. I'm cleaning up this trash. I'm picking up. I'm fighting for, did you know that there's not trimesters? Like that was made, I was like, okay, yes, educate me. So do you feel like that motivation for you to do that? Do you feel like that's something that was because of your upbringing and how your family was with you? Or is that something that maybe you didn't have that you grew to eventually learn growing up?
Yeah, so I was raised in a huge part by my maternal grandparents. So and growing up, we definitely, even still now, we're not like a super rich, wealthy family at all. But growing up, my grandparents always had us do things that were like for other people, like coats and like food and different stuff like that. And even though we didn't have money, it was always instilled in me. They would always say, like, you always give no matter what you have. And if you always give, then you'll never be without. So I actually started my career in food banking.
Okay.
And so I worked for big organizations like the North Texas Food Bank and City Square because I was so inspired by like the kind of like giving ways of my family. But actually like being working in nonprofits, I realized that there is such a thing as a nonprofit industrial complex. And
Hmm.
so because of like capitalism, there's become a whole industry of businesses that are just basically like profiting off of social issues that we have, like hunger and housing and stuff like that. So that's how I shifted. I still work with nonprofits, like you said, like O'Neill and I run the Sarin Foundation together. I work for Somos Tejas, which is a civic engagement organization for Latinos, and March to the Polls, which is a voter empowerment organization for Black and Brown youth. So I still do all the nonprofit stuff, but I really like shifted or pivoted in my career because I realized like I don't want to work for big organizations that is ultimately meant to serve the people on the board or the executive
Mhm.
director. I wanted to do real work and to try to, really make an impact for, generations to come after me. So I kind
Yes.
of shifted more into like politics and a little bit more into like the radical side of this work.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. I was like, especially again, being a minority woman, even though because of our ancestors, there's been a lot of advocacy for us, we're at a better place than maybe we would have been 10, 15, 20 years ago. But it's still not a safe, really space to do a lot of the stuff that you're doing. How does that, I mean, like, how do you feel like you are or are not benefited by being who you are in those places and spaces?
For sure. So, um, doing community work, you're definitely not gonna get rich at all. So it's definitely not a super like great financial decision to like commit your life to, helping democracy or whatever. But that's one thing. But also too, I think like just being a woman, a lot of times I think people think that I don't know what I'm talking about or that there must be somebody else with more experience than me.
Mhm.
And so that's one thing that I kind of deal with every day, but I do know what I'm talking about, and we are very powerful. So anyone who doubts that or wants to find out, then they can find out.
No, on God, you either find out now or you're gonna feel it later.
Mhm.
Okay, so in those particular spaces and stuff, obviously, like you said, being a woman, do you think that there is any advantage to you at this point in the world and how it is of because you're a minority woman on top of everything else? Do you feel like that has
Mhm.
been a little bit advantageous in you kind of shaking up some things?
I feel like I feel like the way I try to operate as a woman of color in this space is um I'm not here to like play respectability politics. I don't feel like I should have to dress a certain way or speak a certain way or not have tattoos everywhere or not show my belly button because that's what people have had to do to be respected and to be allowed into this space. So it's honestly not the easiest route to go, like to be unapologetically yourself because people will always discount you for being, too vocal about one thing or for not being modest enough. But if we continue to like ascribe to those preset ideals that don't like align with us and we
Right.
continue to like fit into those um like restrictions that people want us to, then we just reinforce those like harmful cycles that we're trying to break. So
Absolutely.
um like it's not easy all the time trying to be the different one and to trying to like shock everybody, but I say it's worth it. And I do it for
Yeah.
girls that are going to come after me because like now I even work with young Black and brown girls that are 16, 17, 18 right now.
Yes.
And it's like a scary place to be, especially when you have like such big aspirations. And
Mhm.
so I'm willing to be uncomfortable to make it more comfortable for girls that come after me.
I mean, an angel on earth because girl, people would not. And that's so beautiful because again, even more so, I feel like that's not to be that person, but like an advocation of even like how when we think about our ancestors, but there are people that are right next to us that are literally still doing advocation and sacrificing in certain areas and comfortability to be able to say, hey, listen, it's not fun for me and not comfortable for me, but the next person is going to be easier for them and they deserve that. And that's again, and also, and I'm glad you're doing it because I've seen, you know what I'm saying? She said crop top and blazer because I can, and you be feeling it. You be like, yeah, I know I'm at the Capitol, but bitch, I'm gonna pop off this Capitol, period. Okay, so because I know we're kind of running down time. One thing I was gonna say, so what do you feel like your most prideful part about being an Afro Latina is?
I would say for me that I would say the most prideful part is that I represent so many different people. Like I said, like being Puerto Rican, our heritage is of the diaspora, it's Spanish, it's indigenous. And so I don't see myself as one or the other. I've actually even never done like my ancestry because knowing like Puerto Rico and Mexico, like I know in my heart what that is. And I don't have to have like percentages that come out of a lab to like help solidify my identity. So I would say I'm prideful in the fact that no matter like what shade or what languages we speak, I represent Latinas and that's it.
Good job. I said what I said. I love that. Well, first off, again, I love you and your movement. I think that everything you're doing is absolutely just as gorgeous as you are on the inside and outside and everywhere else in the DFW Metroplex and worldwide, period. Uh, so I want to make sure people can be able to also follow your movement. I know I'm going to see you on Saturday because I know we got some cleaning up to do. But how else can people be a part of the SiSi for Dallas movement?
For sure. So definitely follow me on Instagram at SiSi for Dallas. And then follow the Sarin Foundation at the Sarin Foundation on Instagram. And then from there, you can see everything else we're doing. You definitely want to come through and volunteer. You want to come through one of our block parties, kickbacks. We have lots of stuff going on and lots of different ways that people can get civically engaged. Because even if you can't vote, even if you can't protest, like there's so many different ways that we can have an impact towards our shared goal of justice.
Amen. And that's why I was like, honestly, this is the shortest version because I'm gonna run this back and I'm gonna have to have like a leadership sit down with SiSi because there's so much I know that we can talk about and people need to hear you say. So thank you for all that you have given us for today. And I can't wait to do the follow-up. But more importantly, I can't wait for people to come and be a part of your movement and support you because again, eternally grateful for everything that you're doing for us in our community.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much. You are so beautiful. And I love also what you're doing for us. Like, you are a trailblazer in the media space and the entertainment space. You are young, out here doing it. So much applause to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is why I love my people. You know, like, we ain't scared to say you did that. You did that. Okay, well, great. Well, thank y'all again so much. Make sure to follow along with SiSi for Dallas and make sure to come back around to El Barrio next week. We'll be back with somebody else, Afro Latino, but you know what I'm saying? We got to be in the streets today. Hey.